All right, so getting into a little bit more of the specifics about the float itself within our the A&A's water leveler. Just want to kind of show you guys how to troubleshoot one of these. Obviously, this is the part that we showed you guys threading into the lower housing. Once again, this window determines your pool's water level. Giving this a slight turn and pulling back and forth and then clocking it back in will set your water depth. What we'll find sometimes, especially on a brand new installation, is some shavings or slight amount of debris in the water line coming into the water leveler will come up into the bottom and get up into the valve itself up here on the top. So what I'm going to show you is how to clean out the diaphragm and all the internal parts. Sometimes you get a little debris in there and it'll cause it to kind of not shut off completely. So on the side of this white cap, there's a little thumb point right here that you can push on. If you just push up right there, this top will pop off. Down inside here is the float itself, which is this piece that's down inside the can here. And as you can see, as the water level comes up through these windows, the buoyancy of that float will come up and it'll rock this arm back, which seals off the float itself. If you pinch in on these two little tabs right here on the top, pinch in and this whole piece will lift out. So once you get underneath the float that's on top of this ballast house, or this diaphragm housing, you need to get down to that what's underneath here, which is the rubber ballast. So by giving this a quarter turn counterclockwise, notice this little nub here. That's important for putting it back together. It's always on the left-hand side if you're looking at the float this way. This piece will just lift out. So I'm going to put that aside for right now. Down inside here is actually this long rod that can pull out. I always get this little gasket, rubber gasket down in here, and I make sure that's nice and cleaned out so there's no debris and that this is sliding up and down freely. Sometimes these little ribs right here will get debris in them, so kind of flush them out in the pool. So this is the diaphragm itself. This is typically where a lot of the debris will get. So what I do is just using a pocket knife or something, I just get underneath there, making sure not to cut the rubber, and pull it out like that. And underneath here, you'll sometimes find little pieces of sand or something that can get in there. So I just rinse both these pieces out in the pool. And then from that point forward, it's just a reassembly process. There's a small little pin in the middle here that lines up with this hole. Just place it down, kind of stick it down in that little slot. Take your lower housing again. Notice this piece coming out the side is very important. That drops down over here at about the 9 o'clock position. If this is 12 and this is 6, shooting out the 9 o'clock position. And you turn it to about 10:30, 11, and it's fully locked in. This slot should be aligned with the float canister there. So looking at the bottom of the float here, what will happen sometimes, this only happens after this float's been in the pool for 4 or 5 years, but there's a small little rubber pad right here. And what that does is that's actually what seals off the diaphragm itself, it shuts off the water. This is again rocking, as this normally be sitting in like this, but the buoyancy comes up and this rocks back, that seals. What I've found sometimes is there's a little indentation in this rubber seal sometimes over time. And so what you can do is, again, with a pocket knife or a flat nose screwdriver, pop that out, flip it over 180 degrees and reinsert it. And that sometimes will help solve little sputtering issues. So all of this has been serviced and cleaned out. Reinstalling the float back into the housing is just a matter of dropping it back in the canister, coming over your fingertips, pinching in on these little wings, and locking it in place. And again, you should be able to have a little movement in there. At that point, it's just a matter of reinstalling the dust shield, which just snaps in place over the float, and then it's ready to be reinstalled into the deck housing. For additional educational videos about A&A products, please visit our website at www.aamfg.com and follow the link to our YouTube page.